Hello and welcome to another episode of the Dad Strength Podcast. Today we are going to start ranking objects. What do you think is the most important object or parenting tool that you should keep on hand in your parenting bag, diaper bag if you want to call it? As a dad, I made myself a little backpack. That's what I carried around, and that's where I had my most important tools. So we're going to be looking at certain objects, different objects each week. Each week we're going to focus on one thing, toy, parenting object, tool, whatever. And we're going to break it down, how it's used, what it is used for, and we're going to rank them on the Dad Strength website. So right now, I have 5 objects up that are basically starter objects. And we're going to go ahead and I'm going to be bringing those in first. Once we get those 5 objects covered, then we're going to go ahead and we're going to add another round of objects. And that second round of objects, then as I add them, as I cover them. So each episode I cover a new one, then it will get added to the ranking list. So each week I encourage you to go back, view the ranking list. I have it set up so that you can re-rank objects. So if you think like, okay, well, he brought in something, and then the next week I bring in something else that's contrary to the first object, and you already ranked that up, you can either vote objects up or down. So it's pretty straightforward, and I have the form embedded on our website already. So that's pretty cool, and we have that set up and ready to go. Now, when I bring in an object, what you're going to see is I'm going to have a video that goes on YouTube. Now, on the podcast, I already talked previously that I'm going to introduce the object. So you might hear it twice. I don't know what the transition period is going to be or how I'm going to do this. But this podcast intro, you're only going to hear on the podcast. So if you preferred podcasts, they're going to be a little bit longer, probably about 10 minutes to start, maybe 15. But eventually, I'm going to expand out and then have maybe up to 20-minute podcasts. The end of the podcast is going to be the audio from the video. So once you listen to the extra tidbits that you get only from the podcast, then you can go ahead and cut it off if you've already watched the video. If you haven't watched the video and you're not planning on watching the video, you can still listen to the argument there. Then after you listen to each episode, go to the list and rank. So if you miss a week, it doesn't really matter, because before and with any of the parenting podcasts I've done, the order does not matter. The cover or the coverage that we provide is going to be the same, or that I provide, because so far it's only been me. And I don't know if I'm going to have guests on this format. Maybe someone can bring in, and we might have callers or something that call in and talk about their most essential parenting item. But we're going to start with the most basic today. The very first object that's already on the list anyway. If you looked at the list, you know. But we're going to go with bottle. Now, bottles are pretty handy because you can bring food with you when your child is first born. And that is one of the most essential things that any parent can have. So with this, you want to go ahead and normally, if you're breastfeeding, you might think, a bottle, maybe that's not as essential as you would think. But whenever you look at a bottle, you have the choice of taking breast milk with you without the mother. So as dads, if I want to go ahead and take my daughter on a date, I can have a daddy-daughter date, but I need a bottle. It's pretty much essential. I need that object in my bag because otherwise, once she wants fed, that's it. She needs fed, and if we're only breastfeeding at that time, then we can go ahead and take over. Now, if you go with formula, you have another advantage here as a dad. You can be the primary food giver to your child. And so if you go that route, you can go ahead and have formula mixed up. You can take over the nurturing duties from the mother by using the formula in a bottle. And so it's very essential. You almost always have to have one on hand. Even if you're traveling, you make the bottle up. You might need to warm it up. That gets kind of tricky. We'll see. We might be bringing some of those on, or different tips and methods on how to warm the bottle. But right now, we're only looking at the bottle in its utility form. It is a travel device for milk, or even formula, if you're not going the breast milk route, to get food to your child. So it's pretty much essential for any dad. But is it really worth ranking super high on our list? That is for you to decide, because as a listener, you get to pick the list. I'm not ranking items on the list. I put them up and I let others rank them. So my opinion does not matter here, because I'm going to try to present both sides of it. But in the long term, you're realistically only going to use the bottle for a few months. So is it that essential in the grand scheme of things of being a father? And I'm not limiting the age here, because once your child is over probably 1 or 2 years old, we already use a limited amount, and our daughter's only 15 months, 16 months now. So you don't need to have a bottle on hand at this age. So how important is the bottle? It's essential at first, but your child is going to live a long life. The bottle's not going to be very, very important after a little bit of time. So at the start, it's very important, and that's what we're starting at. Probably going to go through some infant things, and then we'll work our way up. So on the list today, the very first item is a bottle. If you watch the video, I'm going to show how some of the bottles work. Hopefully it can be in focus for my first real video with me on camera. I don't know. Last week I just showed the tool set. Mixed reviews on that one. So if you have any comments, please send them to me. And I'm trying to get the podcast to be as good as possible and as helpful as possible for parents. So it's kind of like a light look. I'm not going to try to get too serious. It's not going to be like a comedy podcast where I'm doing like jokes or something. But I'm going to try to keep it light. We're just going through objects here. How important are they? Try to figure them out. Because in the grand scheme of things, if you spend hundreds of dollars on bottles, you're only going to get a year or two worth out of them. So is it really that big of an investment that you should be making? How important are they? We only have a handful of bottles on hand. So if you're thinking of how much are you going to use them in the grand scheme of things, yes, they're important. But what's the most important things that dads need? That's what we're looking for. So thank you for listening this week. Bear with me as we try to get some of the technical aspects ironed out here as we switch to a hybrid format where we have video and audio. I just don't have enough information to do both separately. And I don't want to alienate the podcast listeners since the podcast was first. So if you have any feedback on it, maybe we can do even guests. They can call in on certain objects and bring in their ideas. So if you're a listener, go ahead, think it up, send me a message. I have the contact form up. That should be working. Fill it out. It's a Google form, so you should be able to fill it out on pretty much any device. I'm sure that they made that universal. So send in your comments. If you have some ideas for objects you want me to cover, what do you think is most important to a dad? Go ahead and bring it in. And we don't have to do it chronologically. So if you have an idea for something that's important when you have a toddler or even whenever you have a teenager or something, bring that in. Let me know, because we'll be looking at all of it. So thank you for listening, and here you go. Enjoy the first video breakdown, and hopefully you get some use out of it if you can't see. So if you're going to watch the video, you can go ahead and stop listening now. And we're going to go ahead after the end dad strength theme, because I'm hoping that I can make the podcast a little bit extra. And so what I'm going to do is this will be the format. We have the same format we've always done with the dad strength intro, the dad strength outro, and then the video clip will be a little bonus that's added on after the outro. So for the first one, it might not make sense or whatever, but it's bonus. So once you hear the outro music, if you're going to watch the video, go ahead and you can stop listening. But thanks for listening. Send me any comments. If you have any ideas for objects that you want to put on the list, let me know. I am your host, Richie Leahey. Enjoy. All right, today is our first ever ranking object on our dad strength list. We are looking at one of the most essential items that any dad will need, and that is the bottle. Now, the bottle is very important for the early stages of your child's life, but once you get past age 1 or 2, they should transition into a sippy cup or some other cup. So it's up to you. How high do you think this should be ranked on the most essential items for dads. And we're going to be looking at breaking one down here. This is a current bottle. These are the ones that we use. I actually don't even know the brand off the top of my head. It looks like it's a Munchkin latch. And the cool thing with this bottle is at the bottom, there is a little suction cup. And what that does is it gets the extra air out of the bottle whenever your child is drinking. And I found out with these ones, you don't actually have to burp your child after they drink out of them. So that's pretty cool. And basically here are the parts to it. There's a rubber nipple. They come in different sizes. There are numbers on them. And what that means is that is how fast the milk comes out. So I believe that you're supposed to go in order. So size 1 is what this one is. I think that's for like the infants, and it works its way up. I don't know what the highest number is, maybe 3. I think we only have numbers 1 and 2, and that's all we need. And I did find myself having to take the nipple part and unscrewing it while my daughter's drinking because it gets air inside the bottle. I don't know if that's a function of the bottle or if it's just how fast she drinks. But this is how you put this together. We'll see if I mess up the mic stand. But there is a plastic part that you push the nipple through. And once the nipple is through, and hopefully this is in focus on the video, but we'll see. Once the nipple is through, you can see it kind of hangs on here. That's how you know you have it on correctly. And there's like a little lip inside. So you just have to make sure that the rubber inside is pushed all of the way down. Once it's all the way in, you know your nipple is attached correctly. And then you go ahead, fill it up with milk. There are different size bottles. This one goes to 4 ounces. So you have the United States ounces on the side, and then you also have milliliters on the right side. So however you're going to keep track of your milk. It's pretty good to note how much your child is drinking because that way you know how much fluid intake they're having, and then you can make sure that they're having the appropriate amount of nutrients and the appropriate amount of diapers for that, how much they're drinking. So like if they're drinking, I think it's like an average of 7 a day. You want to make sure that they're having those wet diapers and they're not dehydrated. So once you have the nipple together, you put some milk in here, you just go ahead and tighten it on. And like I said, when my daughter's drinking sometimes, the nipple will suck down. Like it will look like this. It'll be squashed in. And so what I've found just to quickly alleviate that is I hold the bottle straight up and I twist it and it'll pop back up like that. So I hope that was in focus totally so you could see. But if the nipple gets pushed down while she's drinking, and there's no suction in here because I don't have water, but it will look like that. And it's hard for them to get it out. But to do that, you just get the air out. You just open the bottle a little bit. At least that's how I took care of the issue. And it worked fine. And then what you have is a little travel protector. I find these are perfect. They kind of let a little bit of air out. I don't know if you could hear that on the mic. That's how you know that it's suctioned on there tight because you do not want milk spilling throughout your vehicle or throughout your house. You don't want to get it on your nice couch, a bunch of milk dripping out of the bottle. So they come with a little lid. It's pretty cool and it's convenient. And then that way you can throw it right into your carry bag. My dad backpack. I throw it right in there and I don't have to worry about it leaking. So it's pretty cool. So that's a bottle breakdown for you. A couple different parts, different brands might be different, but I'm only using the objects I have. I'm not sponsored or anything by the brands. So feel free to go out. We actually didn't even test any other ones. These are just the ones that we got. And we only have about 5 bottles. So when you're thinking about the most essential items as a dad, we only have about 5 bottles on hand, and that's it. Because even whenever we travel, you can just wash out the same bottle. So it's not an item that you have to spend a ton of different money on. And this is a size 1 nipple. That's what she used up until, well, she still uses that one sometimes. I think most of the time. So I don't think that you need the extra big size nipples on here. And that just depends on your child. But that's another thing you don't need to invest in. Maybe I think what we did was we got one of each. And then whichever size she handled, that was it. We got like 2 other ones of that same size. So whenever you're looking at bottles, think of that. Yes, it is important and it's going to be something that you do need if you're going to travel or if the mother isn't going to be breastfeeding 100% of the time. If she goes to work, she'll have to pump or something like that to get the milk out. But the bottle itself is an object that you're going to need as a dad. This is it. go ahead to dadstrength.us and go to the rankings tab and vote up or down bottles on how essential you think they are. And remember, this is for a child's lifetime. What are the most essential items you need as a dad? At first, these might be great. Do they deserve to be up? If you're carrying them in your lifetime bag, I think I have it on the site that says like diaper bag, but we'll mix that around a little bit because I'm going to be bringing in different objects for different ages. So check it out. Bottles is our first object. Thank you for watching. You've been watching Dad Strength with Richie Leahey. We also have a podcast, and you can get that from our website too, dadstrength.us. So check that out and subscribe. Thank you.